The world thought it was over. Cobra Kai was gone, the valley was quiet, and peace had returned, but that peace was a lie. Because from the shadows of defeat, a darker force is rising, one that will take Johnny, Daniel, and their students far beyond the valley. The fight isn't just local anymore, it's global. And this time, the cost of losing isn't pride. It's everything. After the fall of Terry Silver and the end of the Cobra Kai dojo, things look calm. Johnny Lawrence finally had a moment to breathe. Daniel LaRusso felt like he had honored Mr. Miyagi's lessons. Miguel and Robby were no longer enemies. Even Tory was starting to change. For the first time in years, peace seemed possible, but peace doesn't last when there's still power left behind. Kim Da-Eun, Silver's ally and a master of ruthless Korean martial arts, didn't disappear. She went quiet, she watched, and then she struck. With Silver gone, Kim took over the remains of Cobra Kai's empire and began something bigger. She started recruiting fighters from across the world, champions, criminals, forgotten masters, and she built an army. This wasn't about revenge. This was about domination. She announced a new kind of tournament, one that would bring dojos from every corner of the globe to fight for control of martial arts itself. Johnny and Daniel had no choice. Their students were once again caught in the middle. The New World Tournament wasn't like the All Valley. It was ruthless. There were no age limits, no rules about honor or balance. Just survival. Johnny returned to the dojo, fire in his eyes. He knew that this time the fight was bigger than himself. He looked at Miguel, Robby, and Hawk. If we don't fight back, he told them, she wins everything. Daniel, still haunted by his sensei's voice, knew what this meant. He gathered the old students of Miyagi-Do. He called in favors from Okinawa. And together with Johnny, he formed a united Team Miyagi-Fanga blend of discipline and aggression. But unity wouldn't be enough. Because Kim's fighters were stronger, faster, and they didn't care about rules. As training started again, old tensions returned. Robby and Miguel both wanted to lead. Hawk wanted to prove himself. Tory was torn between her past and her future. And in the middle of it all, Johnny and Daniel had to keep their new alliance strong, but there was no time to waste. The global tournament was only months away. And this time, the fight was going to be broadcast around the world. It wasn't just about reputation. It was about standing up against the return of Cobra Kai's brutal style. It was about making sure no one else fell under its control. Season 7 promises more than just another round of kicks and punches. It brings new challenges, deeper rivalries, and emotional choices that could tear everything apart. Johnny and Daniel won't just have to face their enemies. They'll have to face themselves. And for Miguel and Robby, this journey might not only test their skills, it might test their friendship, their loyalty, and even their future, because this time, losing means more than just pain. It means surrendering the soul of karate forever. Asterisk, she didn't need revenge. She needed control. After Terry Silver's defeat, everyone believed the Cobra Kai dream had ended. But for Kim Da-Eun, it was only the beginning. She never cared about valley pride or honor battles. Her goal was much larger. While Johnny and Daniel were celebrating peace, she was building a network quietly, globally, and without mercy. Kim didn't rebuild Cobra Kai as a local dojo. She transformed it into a global martial arts syndicate. With unlimited funds, secret connections, and a cold heart, she began recruiting the best fighters from around the world. She didn't care if they came from prison fights, underground rings, or forgotten dojos. All she cared about was strength. In Brazil, she found street fighters who trained barefoot on rooftops. In South Korea, she recruited elite soldiers turned martial artists. In Russia, she paid off crime families to send their best brawlers. And in Japan, she discovered a silent master, someone who once fought against Mr. Miyagi himself. One by one, they joined her cause, wearing a new symbol, not the cobra, but the dragon. The Dragon Dojo wasn't just a name. It was a warning. Kim Da-Eun announced a new tournament, the Global Q-Might. Unlike the All Valley, there were no safety rules. No age limits and no mercy. This was an open call for domination. Any dojo could enter, but only one would walk away with the right to teach their style across the world. She used fear and money to get sponsors. She had entire cities bending to her will. Even governments started watching. This wasn't about sports anymore. It was about power. When news reached Johnny and Daniel, they were stunned. The tournament wasn't months away, it was weeks. And if they didn't join, they would lose their voice in the martial arts world forever. The worst part? Some of their old students, people they once trusted, were already on Kim's side. Lured by fame, glory, and promises of greatness, they turned their backs on their old senseis. Johnny felt the anger rise. "She's turning karate into a weapon," he growled. Daniel, more shaken, said, "This is bigger than us now." The world was watching. And Kim was smiling. She gave interviews on global news, dressed in all black, surrounded by her fighters. "Weakness spreads when peace becomes a habit," she said. "We will remind the world of true strength." Every country had their eyes on the Kumite. Kids from Tokyo, fighters from London, champions from Nigeria and Mexico, all preparing to fight. It wasn't just about the valley anymore. The entire world was becoming a battlefield, and standing at the center was Kim Da-Eun, colder than ever, ready to destroy every legacy left behind by Mr. Miyagi. And anyone who stood in her way, they shook hands once, but some scars run deeper than skin. Miguel and Robby had found a fragile peace. After years of clashing fists, broken bones, and painful memories, they finally stood side by side, training together, fighting together. Johnny watched them like a proud father. For a moment, it felt like the war between them was over, but peace is fragile. Especially when pride, history, and hidden feelings are involved. When news broke about the global Kumite, both boys were ready to fight. Miguel wanted to defend the legacy of what Johnny and Daniel built. Robby wanted to prove he was more than just a troubled past. Both were strong, both were hungry, and both believed they were the best. Then the team selection process began. There would only be one spot for the official male representative of Miyagi Fang. One fighter to face the strongest male warriors from the Dragon Dojo. Only one could wear the symbol and step into the international arena. The elders, Johnny, Daniel, Chozen, refused to choose. They said the boys would have to decide the old way, a match. Miguel versus Robby. Again, this wasn't about hate anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect and identity. Who had grown more? Who could carry the weight of the dojo, the hopes of their friends, and the honor of their senseis? Johnny stood silent, guilt in his eyes. He saw both boys as sons. Now he had to watch them fight again. Daniel tried to talk them out of it, but they had already agreed. As the training intensified, so did the tension. Not just between Miguel and Robby, but between the whole team. Hawk trained in silence, feeling left out. Tory struggled with her loyalty to the dojo and her guilt over past choices. Samantha watched the coming storm with worry. She knew what this fight meant and what it could destroy. Miguel tried to hide his nerves, but deep down he remembered the fall, that balcony, that moment when Robby kicked him over the edge, the pain, the recovery, the fear. Could he truly let go? Robby, meanwhile, felt the weight of everything he'd done. The mistakes, the damage, the distance between him and Johnny. This fight wasn't just for the team, it was for his own redemption. He didn't want to win to hurt Miguel. He wanted to win to prove he'd changed. But the past doesn't die quietly. When the day of the match came, the dojo was silent. Friends stood back, words were few. The two boys bowed, and then they fought not as enemies, but as warriors seeking truth, kick for kick, strike for strike. Sweat fell. Breath grew heavy. And as the match neared its end, no one knew who would rise. Johnny looked at them both and whispered to himself, "They've both already won, but only one can move forward." And deep inside, the question burned. Would this fight build a stronger bond or break the last thread holding their team together? He teaches others to find balance, but inside Daniel LaRusso, the storm has never truly passed. Ever since Mr. Miyagi passed away, Daniel had tried to carry the torch through Miyagi-Do, through his family, through every battle with Cobra Kai. But deep down, the burden was getting heavier. With every new fight, every rising threat, And now the pressure of a global war. Something inside Daniel was cracking. This wasn't the All Valley. This was the world. And for the first time in years, Daniel began to question if he was the right person to lead. In the quiet of night, he returned to the old Miyagi garden. He sat by the pond, surrounded by silence. He stared at the empty chair across from him, and in his mind he heard Mr. Miyagi's voice again. A true karateka fights not for victory, but for peace. But what happens when peace is no longer an option? As Johnny prepared the team for the brutal Kumite ahead, Daniel slipped into his own battle. He started digging into ancient Miyagi family scrolls, looking for forgotten techniques, hidden wisdom, anything that could give their students an edge. But what he found was more than just technique. He found a name. A name he had buried deep in his past. Julie Pierce. She had been trained by Mr. Miyagi years ago, long before Cobra Kai ever returned. A fighter with pain in her soul and fire in her heart. They had never spoken much, but Daniel remembered Mr. Miyagi once calling her his most difficult, but most powerful student. A single letter remained. A message left behind by Mr. Miyagi for Julie never sent. Daniel found it among the scrolls. And in that letter were words that shook him. If the world loses its way, Julie will be the one to help it find balance. Again, that same night, a mysterious figure landed in Okinawa. Chozen, now working to protect Miyagi-Do's roots overseas, received a message. It contained one phrase only: I'm coming. Tell Daniel not to give up. At the dojo in California, Daniel trained harder. But his face was marked by something deeper than stress. It was fear. The fear of failing his students. Of failing Mr. Miyagi. Of losing everything they fought for. Johnny noticed it. You good, LaRusso? He asked. Daniel forced a smile, just remembering what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself. But the fear remained. Until the day a car pulled into the dojo parking lot. A woman stepped out. Older now, but eyes full of history and strength. She walked into the dojo without a word, dropped her bag, and said only one thing. Where's the fight? Daniel turned. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled, not because he was ready, but because he finally knew. He wasn't alone. Julie Pierce had returned, and with her came not just a fighter, but a living part of Miyagi's legacy, ready to help guide a new generation into the most dangerous battle of their lives.